Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
Good. It's just gone 2 p.m. Central African time. It's a very good afternoon to you and welcome to Business Watch, where we show you the biggest developments shaping the business landscape of Eswatini. My name is Fiso Ngumal and I'm not alone. I'm with Lungelele. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Fiso. I'm good. How are you?
I really love this blazer and I think it goes really well with your shirt.
Thank you so much.
Needed to tell you that on air, in front of everyone that's watching.
Thank you. And good afternoon to our viewers. You can watch this program on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV. We are on DSTV as well, channel 286.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I've already established that we are going to have a very, very insightful lineup for the viewers today, and we're going to start with a conversation that is very pivotal for the future of youth entrepreneurship in our nation. The Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries Eswatini is making strides, securing partnerships with key players like Business Eswatini, the Youth Council, to give youth-led businesses the boost they need to thrive. Now, in a recent announcement, the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mangoba Khumalo, revealed that the Youth Chamber's President, Sakilan Sibanze, will be joining the Citizens Economic Empowerment Council. Now, to unpack what this means for the youth and their businesses, we will be speaking with Bonke Motz, Vice President of the Youth Chamber. Another development we want to explore today is a shift where we want to shift our focus to Eswatini's monetary policy. The central bank has just released its June-July monthly statistical statement, which reveals a notable 2.5% increase in credit extended to the private sector, amounting to 20.3 billion. Yes, 20.3 billion in Malangeni as of June. However, the discount and prime lending rates have held steady at 7.5% and 11% respectively. Economist Sanele Sbia, very, very usual on our show, will join us to explore the implications of these figures and what they signal for our economic future. So do stay tuned, and I really enjoyed the show today.
Yeah, that's right. And on the Nedbank segment today, Nolwazi Khumalo, who's the electronic banker at Nedbank, will join us again this week to talk about the Nedbank Money Africa app, which is a quick, safe and easy way to manage your money on the go. She'll take us through the features of the app and answer questions such as, do I need to be a client to have the app? Who can I pay on the app? And do I get monthly statements, etc.? And for our leading story today, lack of professional experts in the procurement space has led to some procedures not being followed. This was said by the Vice Chairperson at the Chartered Institute of Procurement Supplier, Patricia Magujwa, during the procurement symposium by the Eswatini Public Procurement Agency. Then in our last segment, as usual, Toba Games, who's Treasury dealer at Nedbank, will join us for today's financial markets. For now, let's go straight to business news.
Welcome back. We are still tuned into Business Watch this Wednesday. Let's look at our business news. The first story, lack of professional experts in the procurement space has led to some procedures not being followed. Now, the Vice Chairperson at the Chartered Institute of Procurement Supply, Patricia Magujwa, said this while speaking during the procurement symposium by the Eswatini Public Procurement Agency. This was held at the Hilton Garden Inn, Bobane.
Thulile Sifunza, Manager Capacity Building and Advisory at the Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency, highlights some of the things they will be engaging the stakeholders on.
We started off with issues of incorporating sustainable public procurement practices in line with the ESG framework, which is the environmental, social and governance framework in our procurement processes. So we are also looking at issues of ethical leadership, to say while we execute our procurement as organizations, what are the things that we need to look into? How can we safeguard ourselves? It's not a new topic, however, but looking at the space in which which we operate in as procurement professionals, there's that strong interchange between the public and the private sector, which make it a very, very, very high risk area. So it's very important that now and again we engage each other on ethical conduct, how we expected to conduct ourselves, not only starting from when we are doing our work in the organization, but in all our personal lives as well, because that is what that influence the way we conduct in our own personal lives, have an effect in how we will conduct ourselves as procurement professionals while we've been assigned the tasks by our organizations. So another area that we'll be looking at today, it's also the issue of professionalization of the public procurement system.
Vice Chairperson of the Eswatini Institute of Procurement Supply, Patricia Magucho, says the procurement space needs to be professionalized.
One of the challenges that we have noted as a committee is the issue of organization not recognizing procurement as a profession, and the fact that if you go to different organizations, you find that there are a lot of people who are practicing procurement, yet they don't have any qualification, either academic qualification or professional qualification. Then that's one of the challenges which we felt it's a gap. And with this training, or I'll say symposium, we are going to bridge a gap. I feel like we're going to bridge that gap between practicing of the procurement in the organizations, as well as having those people who are qualified to do the work.
Chief Executive Officer at the Nhlangano Town Council, Babsi Mavuso, who was a participant in the symposium, says it is important to develop and implement a procurement compliance policy.
For a long time, we have not taken procurement seriously as entities. And this workshop is about that, basically, to say, let us recognize procurement and make sure that we derive value for money from whatever that is happening within the procurement space. So what we've done as Nhlangano Town Council, when we started the journey of professionalizing our procurement department, we realized that we had a threshold of about 250,000. But today we're happy to say that we're able to procure up to about 4 million. It has not been easy, it's been a journey, believe me, but it was worth it. We invited ESPRA to come and do what we call workload capacity assessment.
The Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency says procurement functions in the country is still faced with supply chain challenges, including getting reasonable rates, quality supplies, and timely vendor payments, hence the training. The agency says the law on procurement still needs to be strengthened. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
And for international stories, Zambia briefly shut its border with the DRC, disrupting mineral exports and sparking protests following a Congolese ban of Zambian soft drinks and beer. The border reopened after discussions ensuring the free flow of people and goods between the nations.
Zambia briefly closed its border with the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, over the weekend due to a trade dispute, which temporarily threatened Congo's ability to export its minerals. The closure was in response to the DRC's ban on importing soft drinks and beer from Zambia. This action led to protests by Congolese truckers near the border town of Kasumbalesa and criticism from Zambian business groups. The border, a key export route for Congolese minerals such as copper, was reopened on Monday night after discussions between Zambia's Commerce, Trade and Industry Minister Chipoka Mulenga and Congolese officials in Lubumbashi. The reopening allows for the continued free movement of people and goods between the two countries. Indonesia is set to inaugurate its new capital, Nusantara, on the country's Independence Day, despite ongoing delays and sluggish private investment. President Joko Widodo described the unfinished city as a canvas on which to draw the future, highlighting the ambitious vision behind the 30 billion euros, over 597 billion Emalangeni mega project. Nusantara, planned to replace Jakarta as the nation's capital, aims to address issues like overcrowding and environmental concerns in the current capital. However, the project has faced significant challenges, including controversies over environmental impact, displacement of local communities, and slower than expected investment for private sectors. The project symbolizes Indonesia's effort to decentralize government and boost economic growth in less developed regions. Yet with the city still under construction and key infrastructure incomplete, Nusantara's ability to fulfill its ambitious goals remains uncertain. Reporting international news, Spiosami Gininza, Sourced from VOA, France 24, and DW.
And that's it for our business news. It's 10 minutes after 2. Thank you for staying with us.
Yeah, and when we come back, we turn into a conversation and we speak to the Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries in Eswatini. Don't go anywhere.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Hey you!
Yes, you. Have you paid your TV license?
Did you know that by paying for your TV license fees, you will be complying with the laws that govern television possession, in particular the Swaziland Television Authority Act of 1983 and its regulations? It is a legal obligation.
Paying for your TV license can have a positive spin-off, as the money collected from TV license fees goes a long way in assisting Eswatini Television Authority procure appealing and relevant content to broadcast on the channel.
So now, these fees also increase purchasing of local content from independent producers, which helps ensure that the arts and film industry in the country is well supported thus far, ensures the creation of jobs for eMaswati. The payment of TV license fees goes a really long way in such endeavors as well as nation building.
A TV license costs 180 emalangeni per year per device, and for other accessories such as a decoder or njinja, it costs 50 emalangeni per device per year.
By paying for your TV license,
you will be doing the right thing.
Exactly 13 minutes after 3. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Business Watch. Let's turn our attention now to the Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries, Eswatini. It is an organization that has been a beacon of hope for young entrepreneurs in the kingdom, with strategic partnerships now forged with Business Eswatini and the Youth Council. The Youth Chamber is indeed paving the way for youth-led businesses to thrive in an increasingly competitive market. And recently, the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade announced that the Youth Chamber's President, Sakile Sibanze, will now have a seat on the Citizens Economic Empowerment Council, which is a move that could signal a new era of opportunity for the youth. Joining us to unpack these developments and what they mean for the future of youth entrepreneurship in Eswatini is the Vice President of the Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries, Bonke Motsa. Bonke Motsa, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. Really lovely to have you here. I love speaking to the youth, yes. So my energy is a bit different now. I think the first question, and I believe should give everybody the idea yes. of where we're going with yes. this conversation, would be just highlight the objectives behind the Youth Chamber's partnerships, business, Eswatini Youth Council. How do these collaborations aim to support and elevate youth-led businesses?
Yes, thank you very much for the platform. I think first of all, I would like to first start with the hierarchy, which is Youth Council. Right. I think Youth Council with the ministry is our parental ministry. So the Youth Council is sort of the coordinating body for all youth affairs in the country. Yeah. But they sort of not focus only on just business, they focus also on social sort of issues as well. But I guess to us, they become stakeholders in us in the sense that for us to engage the youth in the different geographical areas, when we come with the Youth Council, you know, even the hierarchy does they sort of understand that we are come with the right intentions to actually propel our young people to right places. And then Business Eswatini is the Chamber of Commerce, like also our parent, in the sense that we saw that there's no linkages between the SMEs and the big businesses. Right. So we saw sort of that we have to get to know these big businesses through Business Eswatini. And then I guess formally we are members of Business Eswatini for 3 years. So we are going to be able to use that sort of relationship to actually build our linkages between the small SMEs and the big businesses.
I'm very much aware that the Youth Chamber comprises of, I'd say, only young people, and I'll say that broadly, which is a great move, by the way. And it makes me wonder, working with these big institutions, organizations, are they forthcoming in listening to you guys as young people and listening to the ideas that you come up with?
To be honest, we had to prove our worth. I think also goes to all the youth in the country that you have to prove your worth. You have to prove your competency. I think the big businesses already know they know how to make profits. They know how to actually do this thing. So I think as young people, you have to go into these rooms with the willingness to listen, to learn, and now use what is being sort of spoken about in those rooms that you're able to actually get into and leverage now with the outside. Take that information and be able to disseminate it to the beneficiary, which is the youth themselves. Yeah. So I think. I'm not sure if I've answered you.
Yeah, you have answered me. Yeah. And it begs my third question, which is another key development that has happened. We have heard the news that Sakile Nsibanze, who is the Youth Chamber's president, has been made part of the Citizens Economic Empowerment Council. And, just knowing Honorable Mangoba Khumalo, the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, one of the, if not the most passionate development that they have currently under the ministry is the Citizens Economic Empowerment, the suite of incentives for local businesses. Talk to me about how you see this influencing policy decisions for, that will impact young entrepreneurs.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to first thank the minister. He's been one of those leaders who have been actually, be really encouraging with the work that we do, and also being inclusive, with what we do as Youth Chamber, really acting as a father figure that he is, but also letting us know the type of territory when it comes to business landscape that we're dealing with as well. But I just also want to highlight that the position that was given to Sakile is not for Sakile, it's for the youth of the country. The position belongs to the Youth Chamber of Commerce. So even when as board we have left the Youth Chamber, the position there will still be there for other young people to actually enter and actually operationalize. So I think we really want to appreciate the ministry for that inclusivity, because what it will do, so the council, one of the things that the council will be doing, that because we're internal now, we actually have more information on how the council sort of will operate, is that the council will sort of come up with different legislation. Because right now what we have is just a legislation, which is the act itself. But now what the council will do is they will now just sit together and now come up with different legislation that now will operationalize the act itself. So for example, there can be a quota, for example, a 10% quota in the retail space for fruit and veg, but that 10% is only for local citizens. So now as us having the youth representative there, will have a voice in that table to make sure that when these quotas are being sort of allocated, the youth specifically will be prioritized. So I think that's why I'm like, this is a national opportunity that when we sort of discuss the act itself, it will be sort of a national level where we're revealing the opportunities that the youth can actually participate in when it comes to the sort of the opportunities that will be revealed by the council itself. So the council has a lot of job to do when it comes to making sure that even how do you enforce then the laws itself. So the council will be responsible for that. I think the minister, when launching the council itself, was emphasizing that the board is not just going to be earning money for nothing. They have to make sure that when there's legislation, it can be enforced, so that at least Swazis also can see that this thing is a dog that has teeth.
How much into familiarizing yourselves with the economic empowerment bill, as well as, you know, the act as it becomes operationalized as the chamber, as the whole chamber, because I love that you've highlighted that Sakile is a representative of the chamber, just like the minister himself. He's representing the country in the ministry. He's I just want to know how much into familiarizing yourselves
with the act itself.
With the act itself as the youth chamber.
I think the act has been, I think even before it got enacted, we have had the draft. We have reviewed the draft.
Okay.
We were able to, I think when we created our SMA toolkit, we got the juices from the actual draft.
Of course.
To put it in the toolkit, because now we're just trying to, because, you know, the empowerment is not just for youth. The empowerment is for every Swati.
Absolutely.
We are just advocating for prioritizing of youth as well.
Yeah, as you prioritize the youth, and I suppose, you know, as you look into how to mitigate and alleviate the most pressing challenges, it makes me wonder. I just want to know from you, as a member of the youth chamber, what are the most pressing challenges for the youth right now, and what measures do you have as the youth chamber to make sure that you indeed mitigate them?
I think the youth chamber has been establishing its chapters in the municipality, but now we saw the need when we're interacting with the youth from the chiefdoms. So now we are now sort of in a meeting with I think the Ministry of Tinkundla, where now we want to establish chapters at Tinkundla level using the Mazin region as a pilot region. Where now the whole gist of the chapter is that these youth are from the same geographical area. So if they're from the same area, when we capacitate them, the national body, we give them all the data so that when the youth from that area doesn't have to now travel to town or the big cities to actually access data about the empowerment bill itself or any other resourceful information that they will need in the journey. So the chapter will be capacitated to sort of be like an observatory of information and data, so that anytime the youth needs information when it comes to empowerment, it just sort of liaise with the chapter there.
Yeah.
So I think with the youth chamber, what we're doing is just bringing the data closer to the young people where they are. Because we know the King also mentioned during the SEDCO Entrepreneur of the Year that most of our young people, most of the population is in the rural areas. So it's very important that as much as we live in the city, we still prioritize sort of our people in the chiefdom. I think that's where sort of the youth chamber will be sort of moving towards, where we sort of also prioritize the youth also in the chiefdom sort of geographical areas.
Yeah, I'll honor you right now. I'll give you an opportunity to look straight into that camera and talk to the youth and tell them what it is that they need to do to make sure that they strive and make their mark in the business environment.
Okay. Salmon and Maswat Lamahle, I think one of the things, there are two things I just want to highlight to the youth: responsibility and accountability. We have to be responsible for the opportunity that we're given, and also be accountable to other stakeholders, because when we do our work, it's not just us, the world is seeing us, all the people are seeing us. So if we become incompetent in opportunities, when you do something opposite the principles of even engaging in business, all the youth in the country, because when you do something wrong in front of other people, it's the youth name that gets branded, the stigma that stays with the youth. So it's very important that any youth, when they act in any way in the country, they have to lead with competency, be accountable, and be responsible.
Competency, accountability, and responsibility. That's Bonke Motsa from the Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries, Eswatini. Spotlight Market. See, come on, Benet Bank, Eswatini, Masboy.
right, welcome back. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. Nolwazi Khumalo, electronic banker at Nedbank Eswatini, joins me now to tell us more about the Nedbank Money Africa app. A very good afternoon, Nolwazi. Welcome back. So yeah, I've downloaded the app via Play Store. What's next?
On your app, there are many features on the app, so we are here to dive deeper into that. On the app, you can view your balances for your transactional accounts, for your loan accounts, and any investments you have with the bank. You can also view your transactions, your transaction history. Any transaction you've made, it will show in your app. With that, you can also download a proof of payment if you want that proof of payment. If you didn't get it, or for some reason you want to re-download your proof of payment, you can do that on the app. You can also report a transaction as fraud. If you see a transaction you are not familiar with or you didn't do, you can report that transaction as fraud. On the app, an agent will call you just so that you go through the transaction together.
Okay.
And
yeah, you can go on.
and explain the transaction to you.
Okay, so what other exciting features, are on the app? Because, as customers, we are more about convenience.
Yes.
I want to do my transactions as easy, as quick as possible. Proof of payment, do I receive that? Can I download my monthly statements? What other exciting features are on the app?
Other features on the app, you can download your proof of payment. I've said that already. You can also send money to any local bank. You can also send money to a South African bank and to any active mobile number in Swaziland. You can do that with the app. And you can also buy your prepaids, which is electricity and airtime. Data as well.
Great.
You can do that using the app. It's easy. You just click on prepaids and there you go. Your prepaids are bought there.
Yeah, and also particular about charges, because we always complain about charges. The bank has charged my money, and and so forth. What does the bank, the app charge when you using it?
It will charge you when you do your transactions, but logging into the app will not charge you.
Okay.
It will charge you when you start transacting, depending on what transaction you do, but it will charge you on that transaction.
Do I need to be connected, have data on my phone, on my laptop?
You don't need to have data to log in to the app, but once you start transacting, that's when the app will charge you.
Okay.
Yes.
So what steps should I take should it happen that I lose my card, or I suspect that I've misplaced my account, or I suspect foul play on my account or my app?
The app has a very interesting feature where you can freeze your card in case you think you lost the card. You can freeze and unfreeze it on the app. And you can also cancel the card if you have lost it and you don't know where it is. You can cancel the card and reorder a new one on the app. Also, you can increase your limit, your ATM limit on the app for your card.
Okay.
Yes.
So am I able to make a stop order? Is that part of the features of the app?
Yes, you can. The same way you do your normal payments. So when you do your payment, your everyday payment, at the end there where it says recurring payment, you can set that to say I want the payment to recur monthly, weekly, or maybe daily, depending on how often you want the payment to recur.
So there's no need for me to go to the bank. Once I have this app,
the
I do
app
everything
has
on my
everything. It's banking made easy, so yeah. You don't need to go to the bank.
Okay, so who can I pay on my app? Can I transact money to someone who doesn't have the Nedbank Money Africa app?
Yes,
is that even possible?
You can do that. If you send the money to someone who doesn't have a Nedbank account or an account in Swaziland. So how you do that is you send to an active mobile number. So the person can decide how to withdraw that. If the person is registered for mobile money, they can withdraw the money as they wish.
Okay.
They can withdraw the money as they wish, but if they are not registered, they'd have to withdraw the whole amount of money. It's
So,
just
you know,
set.
I think I was just going through your website, just reading more about the app with your financial recovery assistance as Nedbank. There's a feature on, you know, requesting someone to pay you back your money. Tell us more about that. How does that work? Do your customers love that feature?
We all love it.
Yeah.
We all love that feature. So this is a feature where you are reminding someone who's owing you money to say, this person should please pay back my money. So this reminds them, constantly reminds them to deposit the money into your account, and when they do, the notification or the reminder stops.
Yeah. Speaking of notifications, can I change my daily limits on the app? Do I need to use the ATM? Do I need to go to the bank, or all that I can do on my
You
app?
can do all that in your app. You can change your limit, your transactional limit. You can do that on the app. I've already spoken about changing the card limit. So
Okay.
you can change all your limits on the app.
Okay. You know, there are customers that are not tech savvy. They need assistance here and there. Do you perhaps, you know, provide assistance? Do you provide that assistance to your customers, you know, just to go around the app and bafundiswe ukuthi isebenza kanjani?
We do that. Clients can call us if they need assistance. Our number is 3278 1999. They can call us anytime they need assistance with the app.
Yeah. So any problems that, you know, customers are telling you about with the app?
We haven't had problems, but we are able to solve any problems that they have as long as they contact us and we know about the problem. We can always solve it.
Okay, so great. So actually, there's no need for me to go to the bank. I can, you know, change my daily limits. Can also view my balances or my loans, statements, and my investments as well on the app.
True, that's true.
It's just as easy as that.
That's easy as that.
All right, so Noraz, I'm just realizing that, you know, the app is quite convenient. But can I pay money to other countries?
Yes, you can pay money to any local bank. You can also pay money to South Africa, and you can send money to any local number that is active.
All right, so thank you so much. Lastly, before I let you go, how can people reach you, your social media handles and contact details?
They can reach us Nedbank Eswatini on X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. They can also contact us at help desk at 3278 1999.
And of course, they can visit any Nedbank branch for
They can
any
always
more
do
details.
that. Yes.
All right, well, there you have it, a Nedbank Money Africa app. If you still have more questions, do not hesitate to visit their social media pages and visit any branch for more information. Let's go for net breaks. I'll be back.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Let's turn our focus now to the economic heartbeat of Eswatini, the monetary policy. We have heard that the Central Bank of Eswatini has just released its June-July monthly statistical statement, providing crucial insights into the country's financial landscape. Among the key highlights, we see that credit extended to the private sector has grown by 2.5% month-on-month, standing at 20.3 billion emalangeni as of June 2024. And meanwhile, the discount rate and prime lending rates remain steady at 7.5% and 11% respectively. To help us unpack these figures and what they mean for Eswatini's monetary policy direction, We're joined now by economist Sanele Sibia, who joins us virtually via a Zoom link. Sanele, very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. Really interesting developments here. Just 1 second as I open my monetary policy statement. I do have the graphic on my phone myself. Let's begin with the growth in credit extended to the private sector, increased by 2.5% month on month to 20.3 billion emalangeni. What do you believe are the primary drivers behind this increase, and how might it impact private sector growth in the coming months?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and good afternoon to the viewer. So what we are looking at there is the fact that, we are coming from, the months of wage negotiations with your 5% coming in and your 4% coming in. So that in a way in itself played a role in somehow cushioning households to somehow improve their what we call affordability position with the banks. So that's why we are seeing that, the prime client has somehow improved in terms of the affordability within the household sector and also within the private sector. So that is what is now driving that growth. But then again, another thing that we need to consider, Mr. Ngumalo, is the fact that there is some returning optimism within the banking sector that we are expecting to see interest rates cut in sometime in September. And once we start seeing that, we are going to see a recession or an improvement in terms of who the prime client is. But right now, the major impact on that, Mr. Ngumalo, would have been the fact that we paused the negotiation phases amongst, and also including the government with the new salary increments coming in effect, I think at the end of last month, with the government, the major employer, and that somehow offered our clients a bit of more affordability to afford a bit of more loans, and also just made them to fall within the matrix of the banking sector's lending requirements.
Yeah, interesting indeed. The monthly statistical release, the very first subheadline here, speaks to the gross official reserves, which have grown significantly by 31.9% month on month, reaching 10.6 billion emalangeni. That's a lot of money. How important are these reserves for the overall economic stability of Eswatini, and what implications might these have for our currency strength?
So in terms of the gross official reserves, Mr. Ngumalo, what you need to understand is the fact that our currency is linked 1-to-1 with the South African rand. And one of the things, or one of the matrices that are utilized to ensure that we are able to maintain the peg is actually the gross official reserves. We do need to have at least, ideally, the ideal position would be for us to have 3 months of import cover. That means we need to be able to have enough in terms of foreign currency, in terms of reserves, to be able to finance our imports for 3 months as a country, because when you think of our trade with South Africa, we are not allowed, our currency is not allowed to vary to ensure that we are able to meet the forces of demand and supply. So in a way, we do need to have the money in stock to actually finance our imports and from South Africa, and be able to finance our exports to South Africa without necessarily causing too much pressure on the currency to want to somehow just try to adjust to the forces of demand and supply. So this is in a way that we use to control that demand. So it's quite imperative for us as a nation, because it is one of the major matrices that are utilized to ensure that we do maintain our peg. And I think according to the CMA rules and regulations, we do need to have around 3 months of import cover to maintain a healthy 1-to-1 ratio with the rand.
Very interesting. My third question speaks on the third subheadline on this monetary statement here, which is the contraction that we are seeing in broad money supply by 2.5% month on month. Though there's still a year-on-year growth of 10.4%. Now, what does this contraction indicate about the current liquidity conditions in the economy? And should we be concerned about this trend?
So when we look at that, Mr. Ngumalo, what that is telling of is the fact that we in a very tight money environment. So people are trying by all means to take their deposits. I mean, be in terms of their time deposits, be it in terms of their short-term term deposits, that would be the narrow money. So people are just trying by all means to spend. So it's emblematic of the high cost of living that we are facing, and also that high cost of living crisis with the high interest rate environment that we're operating in. Produces something that we call a hard money environment. It's difficult right now to go to a bank and borrow money. So people are actually clawing into their savings. People are no longer reinvesting their time deposits. Once it matures, people just take it to continue to finance their expenditures, And this is emblematic. I think we're talking about this just yesterday when we look in issues such as, the expenditures in groceries and all of these other components of expenditure. All those have been receding over the past few months, with clients, with consumers trying to really just balance how they are going to spend. But however, an interesting story on that, Mr. Nxumalo, is the fact that this tight money environment actually works for savers. If you do look in the report, it does point to the fact that savings have somehow increased in the short to medium term. So those who have enough money to save are actually benefiting from this tight money environment, because their money that is with the banks earns more profit. But we are seeing that clawback. And in terms of the liquidity requirements, is also seeing that, banks are not holding, are utilizing their own money or their own balances that are held with the central bank to finance their operations. They're no longer utilizing the discount window. That's a situation where they borrow from the central bank to finance quite a lot of the lending, the borrowing, the operations, purely because it's a tight money environment and the interest rate remains very high. And that is one of the issues that that they would always have to consider. Instead of utilizing expensive money, they would rather use their deposits that they already hold with the central bank instead of borrowing.
Interest rates high, inflation high, everything is high. And I love how you are very careful with your choice of words there, saying those who are able to save money, those who have money to save, the environment is really, really good for them right now. But let's look into domestic liquid assets, falling by 11.9% month on month, yet growing slightly by 0.7% year on year. How might this volatility in liquid assets affect the banking sector ability to lend and support economic activities?
So that basically is quite emblematic of the times, the fact that we have a high interest rate environment. So consumers are not likely going to borrow when they do have liquid assets that they can actually just liquidate and use those. So that story is telling of that, to say in the short to medium term, what banks are doing, they are taking from their own balances, and what consumers are doing, they are utilizing their short-term investments instead of reinvesting those. So what we are seeing happening in this period is actually an acceleration in terms of the utilization of those short-term savings. So that is what we are trying to balance. And what we are looking into mostly, Mr. Nxumalo, I think this has been the story for the entire year, is the fact that when are we likely going to start seeing interest rates start to move to allow for a bit of breath into the economy? Like we're saying, everything is high, interest rate is high, and interest rate is high, inflation is relatively high globally, and domestically feasibly okay. So those are the conditions that we need to be on the lookout for and see if they are showing any signs of improving or any signs of letting off, so that we can actually allow some space into the domestic economy to see if we can improve the liquidity, or to see if we can somehow claw back some of this some negative impacts of this high interest rate environment, Mr. Nxumalo.
This is something that hasn't changed at all. The discount rate and prime lending rates, I beg your pardon, remaining unchanged at 7.5% and 11% respectively. Now, what does this suggest about the central bank's outlook on inflation and economic growth? Should we expect any adjustments in these rates in the near future based on maybe current economic indicators?
Thank you, Mr. Ngomad. I think that's the one most people look out for because
Absolutely.
that is the one the central bank utilizes to try to control money supply in the economy and as well controlling how people spend their money and how banks create money. So what we are looking at in terms of those matrix, one thing the viewers must know about that is it changes every after a monetary policy committee. They can decide to change it and they can decide not to change it. So what we are looking into right now is going into September, what are they going to do? When I'm looking at that, we've got to think of what is happening domestically, what is happening regionally in
Outside.
South Africa specifically, and what is happening internationally. That would be your US markets and quite the other markets that we look into. Domestically, what we're looking at is our inflation is actually, it rose slightly to 4.4 in the previous month, while in South Africa, it decelerated slightly from 5.2 to 5.1. And when we're looking globally into the US, we're seeing inflation coming a bit down back to something around the 2.4, but it's really coming to the total region. Same thing in London and same thing in Europe. We've seen China decelerating. So those are the global conditions that we have to consider. But at the same time, what is happening in the global economy, which is quite more interesting, is the fact that this tight money environment has actually contributed to weakening economic growth prospects, such that we've been talking of recession fears in the US and quite a number of the leading economies. So those are the metrics that the central bank has to consider. But we are quite optimistic that, given that the economy is starting to slow down purely because the monetary policy is not accommodating, it's not accommodative of what is happening in business, we are highly expectant of an interest rate cut to start in September, and then going into December, we do expect 2 or 3 cuts. 2 would be the most optimistic. The most conservative, in my view, would be 3 would be the most optimistic. 2 would be the most conservative number of cuts that we should expect before 2024, purely because we do need to breathe some breath into the economy. What we're seeing in South Africa is inflation is coming down, but we would be more stable. What the Reserve Bank aims for in South Africa is a range of 4.5. That's the midpoint. That's so that be more comfortable in cutting down the interest rates. But domestically, we know that we are below that range, but we cannot afford to be too far from South Africa, because that would now lead into capital flights. But as well, I think 1% below, because theirs is 8.5, ours is 7.5 in terms of the prime lending rate. So there is already that differential. So that is what the central bank governor would be looking into mostly, to say domestically, even though the conditions do allow, but do I want to be, I'll say, 2% further from South Africa, because that's going to lead to capital flight. And then at the same time, there are the geopolitical tensions, with what's happening in Gaza, Israel. And, we've seen Ukraine now being the one that's on the offensive in Russia. So all those would culminate into some serious, what we call supply side shocks, where that's going to push the price of oil up. We've already been tracking it over the past days. We've seen it move from 75 to the 82 region in just a couple of days. So that's already the market's trying to be already a bit jittery around those. And then if the Middle East goes into a full war, we are going to see more supply shocks coming into the Red Sea, not just the oil shock, but then there's also going to be the transportation shocks that are going to be causing goods not to move quite freely from the east to the west, and that's going to precipitate another inflationary scenario. So what we are waiting for is we are hopeful that interest rates are going to start coming down now with all of those geopolitical concerns, purely because we do hope that there will be a political solution to the crisis in the Middle East, but we do not expect a very vigorous deceleration. I think we would expect in September a 0.25 0.25% basis point cut, and then while we continue watching what's going to happen in terms of the global economy, and then once we see things stabilizing, then we might see a bit of more rigorous cuts going forward. So what that would mean is, consumers are already contending with the high cost of living. So once you start cutting down the interest rates, that means you're actually allowing those with interest-bearing liabilities a bit of breathing space because they're going to have a bit of money to spend.
Absolutely. Sanele, at least you're leaving us with a sense of optimism as we conclude the year 2024. Really looking forward to seeing these interest rates cuts, by the way. So let's go for a net break. We have Nedbank financial rates decoding after the break.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Ujala masoda mahle kunathi lesa.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu
sivile sive sikhulume.
Welcome back. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for tuning in. We're now joined by Bongani Mabuza, who's the head of treasury at Nedbank Eswatini. I want to take a look at today's financial markets. A very good afternoon, Bongani. Welcome back again to the program. So let's start off with looking at currencies today. I saw reports that the dollar was quite weak today. How is the Lilangeni, trading against the dollar today?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Lulu, and good afternoon to your viewers. It's a real pleasure to be here. I think that's a good place to start if you look at what's happening in markets, especially from a currency perspective.
Yeah.
I'd just like to paint a picture of where we were last week and where we are now, and what's been happening since then. We saw last week the rand go to levels as much as about 1858. As I speak to you now, the Langeni to the dollar is at about 18.08. So there's been a significant weakness of the dollar against major currencies. And we see the Langeni at 19.905 against the euro, and 23.20 against the British pound. So it strengthened quite a bit. For instance, we started the session a week ago at about 18.32, and yesterday we started about 20 cents weaker than where we are now.
Okay, so just before you get into commodities, let's talk about the data, inflation data that is expected to come out today, and also the PPI data that came out yesterday.
Yeah, that's correct. So a lot of what happens, what's happening right now from a currencies perspective, from a commodities perspective, as well as from an equities perspective, is a result of the PPI data that came out yesterday, and markets sort of pricing in what they're expecting from the CPI data that's expected to come in today. So yesterday we had the PPI data, which is the Producer Price Index in the US, come out. It came out really cooler than expected, which is signaling to markets that the economy is not as strong or as robust as some thought it would be, and it's signaling to markets further that they expect the Federal Reserve to start intervening by cutting interest rates. So the story around interest rates is that markets are expecting the Fed to cut interest rates in the next Federal Reserve meeting, which is in September. Markets are expecting, more closer to home, the South African Reserve Bank to start cutting interest rates in September and in November. And in Eswatini, the markets are sort of expecting interest rate cuts to come in as early as November this year, although we may see monetary policy changes coming a bit later in Eswatini, because as your previous speaker was saying, we have an interest rate differential of 75 basis points between Eswatini and South Africa.
Okay. So moving on to commodities, let's start off with gold prices. I think I saw a report that they recorded highs today. You know, what steered the gold prices being high today? And also just take us through Brent crude oil.
No, thanks for that. So starting with gold, gold is relatively flat, down about 0.17%. Gold is at near record highs, and it is steady. We've seen gold increase to these high levels. Right now, what's happening is that investors are really shifting their focus and are waiting the CPI data to come in, because that is going to be indicative of what happens from a monetary policy perspective in the US and in the world. From a Brent crude perspective, we see Brent crude up about 0.64%, and it's up after falling about 2% on Tuesday. This is after there was an industry report that pointed to a sizable drop in US crude stockpiles in the US, and as the market has really let the news of the tensions in the Middle East sort of simmer. So that's really what's driving prices from a commodities perspective.
Okay, so when you look at international companies and equities, what's happening there? What's happening today?
No, thanks. And I think the story is really the same. That yesterday was really a story of the US PPI data. We saw a risk-on sentiment start to come in global equities and in equities closer to home. For instance, S&P 500 was up 1.68% today, with the FTSE 100 up about 1/3%, and the JSE All Share Index up about half a percent. And I think there are notable mentions there. For instance, in the US, you had the Nasdaq, which was up about 2.4% yesterday. This was driven mostly by tech stocks, which really rallied on the news of the PPI data. We had Nvidia, which was up about 6.5%. We had AMD, which was up about 3.2%. And also, interestingly, we had Chipotle announced that their CEO is leaving the company and going to join Starbucks as the Starbucks CEO. So Chipotle was down about 7.5%, and Starbucks was up about 25% yesterday. So that's really the story from an equities perspective. And I think the movements today will really depend on the CPI print when that news comes out.
Right, so that's it. Is there any more data that we can expect? Just in less than a minute.
I think the big focus this week is on the US CPI data, because that points to the strength of the US consumer. So that's coming out today. And more interestingly, what's also coming out today is we expect Walmart in the US to present their numbers, their financial performance numbers. And that is also, as the largest retailer in the US, the performance of Walmart is indicative of how the US consumer is faring. So I think the story this week is really about the US consumer, and the strength or lack thereof, and the news they're in, the data points they're in, are indicative of what you can expect from a monetary policy perspective.
All right, thanks so much, Bongani, for coming through today. And that's it for our financial segment with Nedbank this afternoon. We'll go for an ad break. When you come back, we'll wrap up the show with Sfiso.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Quite a lot we have learned today. An insightful show it has been. Looked at the monthly statistical report by the Central Bank of Eswatini, and it really linked with the conversation that you just had with decoding today's financial race. But that's it for the show today. Thank you for staying with us.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, Wednesday, for Nedbank Business Watch.
Absolutely.
Have a lovely day.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.